Polini Thor 202. Let's talk about what it comes with and what it doesn't come with. Okay, so ships like this, it's in a custom steel cage. It's welded together. They bolt the engine inside, and it's really pretty impressive. Very well protected during shipping. My only complaint is the cardboard box this is in has a hole in either side that is open. So that allowed dirt and dust to get in there, and so this thing was covered and really dirty when I first got it. So it took me a little bit of time to clean it, but got it cleaned up, so no harm, no foul. But I do think Polini could improve on this, just putting this in a plastic bag, throw some desiccant in there, and package it like that, and I think everybody'd be happy. So let's take a look at parts, accessories that you get with it. This is all the stuff that actually comes with. I searched online, I searched on Polini's site, and I couldn't find any information on exactly what was included. So this is what's included. First thing is a radiator. And it's a nice radiator, but I will say, I'm not trying to do a review on it right now, but it's a heavy radiator. For its size, I was kind of surprised at how heavy it is. And it almost feels as heavy as some full-size car radiators I've installed in the past. So I think this could be improved here. Not sure why they're supplying such a heavy radiator when we're trying to fight weight on these engines, but that's what you get. Comes with the bracket for the radiator, and we'll talk a little more about this in a little bit. You get the prop flange and hub, the hardware you need for that, bolts for the prop. You get these, they have 3 of these rubber spacer grommets that go on the bottom and the top of the radiator, and that allows the radiator just to drop into this bracket. For the top of the radiator, they have this little bracket, and then this would just screw to the top here. The hardware for this little bracket it comes with is right here. Also, you have the hardware for the thermostat housing. It does not come with a thermostat. I don't believe you really need one unless you're in a certain situation. If you decide you need one, you can just order one up. Comes with the O-ring for it. Comes with the radiator hoses to mount the radiator to the engine, and then you have all your clamps for these hoses. So these clamps are little spring clamps. They just squeeze together and snap shut. But you do need a tool. They tell you need a special tool for it, but really you can get any set of these cheap little flat pliers. And these will be sufficient to get the job done if you're careful. Comes with some fuel line, probably, I don't know, 3 feet or so, and it comes with some tubing for the radiator overflow. You get a couple of stickers. You get a couple of main jets, and I was actually kind of surprised to see these in the package. Would have been nice to know beforehand that it came with these, because I was concerned I'd need a jet kit right away to get started, but this comes with a 128 main jet from the factory. That's their factory tuning that it starts with, and they give you a 126 and a 130 main jet with it. So you have enough here to get started. If you don't want to buy a jet kit right away, you've got enough to at least get going on this and see where you're at, depending on what part of the world you live in. Also comes with this in-tank submersion fuel filter, and I didn't know it was coming with this either, and that's a nice little add-on that they put in there. The mystery part. So it comes with this cable. Looks like a throttle cable. Has a little end stop you screw on there, and there's no literature anywhere that talks about this that I could find. Maybe there is, but I couldn't find it. So after searching through a few videos online, I saw someone had this installed, and it looks like this is a tether for the airbox. There's a hole here and a little mounting tab here on the airbox, so you can secure it to the frame. And I believe that's what the intent of this cable is for. I think if you install this, you probably want to put this inside of some kind of a silicone tubing or fuel tubing or something to keep it from chafing through whatever you're attaching it to. You also get, there's another little clamp here and this is for the radiator overflow tube. As far as literature, it really doesn't come with anything to speak of. There's one piece here for the propeller flange setup. This is also in the manual that's online. There's a fairly well done manual online. I think they could have done a better job on a few of the items. Some of the things are a little bit vague. But again, that's what they're giving you, and that's what we have to deal with. There's some warranty information here. And lastly, you have your engine mount spacers. And these are just for the lower mounts. The top mounts don't need any. You know, they're pretty long, so you're going to need some long bolts. And that's what comes in the box. That's everything that you get to start off. But it's not everything that you're going to need. So the first thing you're going to need is a throttle. And this is the Polini throttle that is specifically made for the 202 and the 303. And what makes it different than other throttles is, since this is a float bowl slide carburetor, the throttle mounts a little bit differently. They're on the end of the throttle, end of the cable for the throttle that goes to the carburetor. There's a little ball end here, and this just, if you've dealt with these carburetors before, you know there's just a little hole in there, and this just drops in and locks into place. Really quick and easy to take on and off. But your choices are going to be limited as to what you can get for this. Otherwise, you're going to be custom making your own throttle cable down the road. Part number for this is here. You can get the accessories and parts you need. PoliniParts.com, that's where I went. Shipping was quick. They had everything in stock. Prices were reasonable. Now, next up, you're going to need an engine meter. Here's the part number for the engine meter. This is the one that everybody recommends. This is the one that Polini sells. So this will read CHT, EGT, RPM, and your engine hours. It seems to be nicely built. It mounts to the Polini throttle really nicely. There's two different ways you can buy this. It comes, you'll see one listed with a CHT and without. And you want the one without. The one with comes with a CHT sensor that goes under the spark plug, which is not what you use on this one. This one comes with one already. It's mounted into the water jacket here, and it's just ready just to plug right in. On that note, you're going to want to get an EGT sensor. And here's your part number for that. So this guy installs right here. You just take this plug out and install it right in. Now, the meter won't read both of these at the same time. So you have to plug in the one you want to read when you want to read it. It's not great, but my plan is to make a little junction box and a switch, so I can just switch back and forth between the two as I want them. Should be pretty simple. Next up is the main jet kit. Let's see if we can get the part number in there. There we go. So this is 120 to a 138 main jet, and this should be all the jets you're ever going to need to tune this thing up for best performance, or to tune it up so that you can burn yourself a nice hole in the piston. Totally your choice. Other than that, the other thing you're going to need is some mounting bolts. It doesn't come with any. The ones that you have for if you're swapping out an engine probably won't work, because these are some pretty long spacers. So what I got is a variety of things. I measured up what I needed for my particular frame and bought the parts accordingly. So these are 8mm by 1.25. For my particular application, on the lower mounts, I needed 2¼ inch long or 60mm long, and for the top, I needed 16mm long. And you know, your setup might be different. I got both flush mount and button head. I'm not sure which ones I'm going to use. We'll see when the time comes to put this thing on. So the other thing I want to talk about here is the radiator bracket. It's a nice bracket. It's aluminum. I believe it's probably T6. So here's how this mounts. I think they assumed for this to be universal, frame to frame, but it depends on what your setup is. It's going to go into place here, right in front of these motor mounts, up against your frame, and the radiator just sits on top. So the problem is, depending on what you're putting it on, so this is where they would go for mine. You could end up with some limited clearance to where this radiator is going to sit, how much space it takes up. And especially if you have a vertical spar like this one, and depending on how quickly it sweeps back, you could run into some issues here. And I think what some people have done is they've realized that it doesn't fit mounting it where it's intended to be mounted, which is in front of these engine mounts, and they decided to mount it on this side of the engine mounts. So putting it on this side of the engine mounts means you're inducing all of the engine vibration and movement into this bracket, and this causes the bracket to become fatigued. It causes the pegs on the bottom of the radiator seem to be a failure point. So these pegs here see all that vibration and movement, and these end up snapping off. So you want to make sure that you're mounting this on the frame side of the engine mounts to isolate them from the engine. Problem is, it doesn't fit. Can't do it. So what I want to do is bend this bracket, but it's treated aluminum. So if I bend this bracket, it's likely going to weaken it. It's likely going to cause a point where I might have a failure down the road. So what I'm planning to do is to make a carbon fiber bracket using this basically as a template, making the deck a little bit longer and raking the angle back a little bit to make it fit the frame. It's going to custom make it to the frame. So just something to be aware of when you get this. If you're expecting just to bolt it straight up to your frame, you might not be able to. You might have to get a little creative here and figure something out. The other issue is pull start. So you can see if your engine's going to sit on the frame like this, pull start is, if you're pulling up straight, it's immediately already touching the engine mount. So unless you have a pull start location that's off to the side, you're gonna have to figure something out here as well. And my solution to this is I have some Teflon tube, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut a length of this, and then I'll flare each end. I'll put that inside of a P-clamp, a little cushion clamp here, and then I can mount that up here off to the side through the bracket, and I happen to have a hole here that's going to work perfectly, and that'll give me a guide that will allow the pull cord to run through a Teflon tube and around all the components that would normally get chafed on. So that's about it. I hope this helps somebody out, and hope this answers a few questions.